of this case, the Arlene Romorosa versus People of the Philippines. As a review, Arlene is convicted of theft only. Bakit? She has the information alleged that she has only physical or material possession. Physical or material possession of the thing received. Yung pera na receive niya is only a material or physical possession. Bakit? She is only a mere collector and has the obligation of to remit. Has the obligation to remit it. So, what if kapag ang information inalleged dun is juridical possession? So, that's the time magiging liable na si Arlene for estafa. And also, the Supreme Court also emphasized that whatever alleged in the information, dun lang. Dun lang. So, so kapag ang information nag-allege ng theft, but the court proved that there is estafa. So, the court must only convict with limited only to the theft. Yung na-prove niyang estafa, that's void. Hindi yun pwede. Bakit? Kapag na-convict ang isang person ng estafa in which dun sa information is theft yung naka-allege, there will be a constitutional violation of the right of the accused, the right to be informed the nature and cause of accusation filed against him or her. Kasi dapat the offender or the accused must know the nature, alam nila, so that they can prepare for their counter affidavits for their defense. So now, let us go to the second issue of this case, where whether or not Arlene is guilty of qualified theft. So sa first issue, whether or not Arlene is guilty of estafa, she is not guilty of estafa, but guilty siya ng theft. Bakit? Okay, so we will answer bakit, anong basis? Arlene is not guilty of qualified theft, but she is guilty of simple theft only. Okay, so she is not guilty of qualified theft, but only guilty of simple theft. This is now the basis of the Supreme Court. The court finds that the prosecution established only simple theft. Na-establish ng court, simple theft lang. First, Arlene received 1,000 pesos from Elena but failed to remit the amount to Dr. Robilos. Second, the money belongs to Dr. Robilos as it comprised installment payments from customers who purchase jewelry. Okay. First, na-receive ni Arlene yung 1,000 pesos from Elena but failed to remit. Second, the money belongs to Dr. Robilos. Third, the absence of consent was shown in Dr. Robilos' attempt to recover the unpaid installments from Elena. So, wala. There is absent. There is the third element here is the absence of consent on the part of the owner. The fourth is the furtive taking of money raised the reasonable presumption of intent to gain. So there is the intent to gain. That's the fourth element. There is the intent to gain. Yung the act of not remitting to Dr. Rebulos is already constitutes the intent to gain. Fifth, Arlene got hold of the money in the performance of her duty as a collector without force, violence, or intimidation. So, since the taking of the property, the taking of money is without force, violence, or intimidation, then that is only theft. What if kapag may force, violation, intimidation, then that's a time nagkakaroon na or nagiging robbery na siya. That's robbery kasi may force na taking of property without the consent of the owner or with force, violation, and intimidation. Yet, the prosecution failed to establish the element of grave abuse of confidence. So, etong grave abuse of confidence, yan talaga ang pinaka-key para ma-convict si Arlene ng qualified theft. The Supreme Court has explained that grave abuse of trust is a circumstance which aggravates and qualifies the commission of the crime of theft. May theft plus may grave abuse of trust. That's the time nagiging qualified theft. Anong ibig sabihin ng grave abuse of trust? Binigyan siya ng trust. The employer, the owner, give the employee the trust na itago yung pera. Hence, the imposition of a higher penalty is necessary. Sa qualified theft, the taking must be the result of a relation by reason of independence, guardianship, or vigilance between the accused and the offended party that has created a high degree of confidence between them. The grave abuse of confidence by thieving employee, yung magnanakaw na employee, should be contextualized not only by the relationship between the employer and the employee, but also by the purpose for which the employee was given the employer's trust. Kumbaga, theft, mayroong theft. Theft. Theft is taking only a property without the consent of the owner, and the owner belongs to another, and the taking is without force, violence, and or intimidation. So the taking is only theft. Pero kapag that taking or that theft, inad mo ng nilagyan ng grave abuse of confidence, that's the time nagiging qualified theft na siya. There must be grave abuse of confidence. Anong ibig sabihin ng grave abuse of confidence? Confidence. The employer, binigyan niya ng trust. Binigyan niya ng trust ng yung employee niya na maging fiduciary, na maging caretaker ng pera niya, ng thing that was received. There is the confidence, my trust ang employer sa employee niya, na itatago talaga ng employee yung pera, alagaan niya, but there is violation of the trust. Kumbaga, grave abuse of confidence can also be equalized or can be equal to trust. Employer's trust. May trust ang employer dun sa employee. So kapag ganun ang sitwasyon, example ng mga ganitong sitwasyon is the owner and the manager. Okay? Yan, manager. Kapag the manager kasi has the fiduciary capacity and entrusted with confidence, with trust. Kapag na-violate niya yan, there is grave abuse of confidence. So, that's the time, magiging qualified na siya. Qualified. In this case, kapag si Arlene, binigyan siya ng employer's trust, binigyan siya ng confidence, ng fiduciary capacity, or manager si Arlene ng business niya, ng business of selling jewelry, that's the time magiging qualified theft. Here, in this case, it was not proven that Dr. Robilos had special trust or high degree of confidence in Arlene. Wala. The court did not prove. Wala. Hindi na prove ng court na si Dr. Robilos nagbigay ng special trust or high confidence kay Arlene. Wala. The allegation in the information that Arlene is a secretary or collector of Dr. Robilos does not by itself without more create the relation of confidence and intimacy required in qualified theft. More telling are the minuscule amounts involved in the fact that Dr. Robilos allowed Arlene to resign without any question. Inallow lang ni Dr. Robilos na mag-resign si Arlene without any question. Discount the existence of high degree confidence between them. And also, the Supreme Court said the prosecution likewise failed to substantiate the gravity how Arlene betrayed Dr. Robilos' supposed special trust to qualify or facilitate the taking of the money. So, wala. The prosecution failed. Hindi nila na-prove na may trust talagang binigay si Dr. Revilos kay Arlene. May betrayal. Wala namang betrayal. Kasi, bakit? Walang betrayal. Bakit? Pinaresign niya lang agad si Arlene. Dr. Revilos allowed Arlene to be resigned without questioning. Wala. So, pinaresign niya lang. Ibig sabihin, wala siyang trust. There is no trust or intimacy between the employer, between Robilos and Arlene. Wala. Kasi yun niya lang. Dr. Robilos principally hired Arlene as clinic secretary, while her task as a collector is foreign to her usual duties. The circumstances do not show that Arlene's job was instrumental in facilitating the taking of the money. There is no evidence that Arlene could have committed a crime that she had not been holding the position of a secretary or collector. Again, the Supreme Court reiterated abuse of confidence must be grave. Dapat, abuse of confidence must be grave. Grave talaga. Ibig sabihin, grabe. As in, binitray talaga ni employer. Okay. On this point, the court is convinced that Arlene took advantage of her position in committing the crime, but not on the level of grave abuse of confidence. Thus, Arlene is guilty only of simple theft. Guilty lang si Arlene sa simple theft. The court, sabi ng Supreme Court, they are convinced that Arlene tinake advantage ni Arlene kasi yung position niya, being a collector. But, taking advantage of that position is not grave of abuse of confidence. Hindi naman yun grave. There may be abuse of confidence, but that is not grave. The Supreme Court emphasized that the abuse of confidence must be grave. Sobrang grabe. Okay? Grave abuse of confidence in order for Arlene to be convicted of qualified theft. Since the prosecution failed to prove that there is grave abuse of confidence, then Arlene is only liable for simple theft, not qualified theft. Okay? From simple theft, kapag there is the presence of grave abuse of discretion, that's the time magiging qualified theft. Okay? So, that is the case of Arlene Romorosa versus people of the Philippines. So, again, it talks about it distinguish theft from estafa and simple theft from qualified theft. As a review, kapag theft is only the offender, kapag theft, the offender has the material or physical possession and misappropriate it. While sa estafa, there must be juridical possession and misappropriate it. While qualified theft, there must be grave abuse of discretion. Grave abuse of confidence rather. In order for a person to be convicted of qualified